Show me the money. That's right. The Reds get a new TV deal. Does that mean they might go get a right-handed power hitting outfielder? Well, we're going to tell you on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that together have like a combined 14 years of experience podcasting about your Cincinnati Reds. We're glad that you're alongside us here today because Locked On Reds is for the Cincinnati Reds fan that knows what happened, but they want to know why. And today we're going to tell you why the new TV deal is a big deal for the Reds off season. We're also going to get into in a little bit how you can consume the Reds via television this season. It's going to be not very different from years past, but there will be one key difference. We'll get into what that is. And later on, we're going to tell you how you can meet Terry Francona on the Reds Winter Caravan that gets kicked off here in not too long, like just a couple of weeks, as the Reds have finalized those plans. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets, guaranteed if you win. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And where we'll get started here today, Steve, is the new old TV deal that the Reds have, because the Reds signed a deal, and some of you may have heard at this point, that they are going to be broadcast by FanDuel Sports Network, which is rebranded from Bally Sports. So the Reds are back in their old place. Slightly different digs, though. I mean, it'll be the same channel if you have them on cable. There will be an app that you can get like a monthly subscription to that we'll discuss here in a little bit. But the new TV deal brings in more money for the offseason. And it seemed like a speculative thing, and there were a lot of folks that were just like cynical about it, and they're like, oh, it's more money for ownership's pocket. But Nick Krall gave this direct quote to Gordon Whitmire from the Cincinnati Enquirer. He said, "It's great. Just getting a little bit more money is definitely great. We can work a little bit more in both the free agency and the trade market." Direct quote. That's not paraphrasing, Steve. Sounds like we're still in business.
Yeah, we may not be in business for Anthony Santander, but still in business for somebody. This means there may be some flexibility to make a deal for like a Taylor Ward. We talked about him several weeks ago, Jeff. He would be a good fit for this team and a good price point, I think, in talking about the money that's available. You know, we're not that many days removed from the same Nick Krall looking into a camera and saying, you know, we don't have to draft that player now, so we can roll that money into Major League payroll. So this Major League payroll is tight. It is not, and this deal with FanDuel Sports doesn't change that a whole lot. It's better than no money at all, or the little bit of money they may have gotten from an MLB produced production channel. And what those deals were going to look like. At the end of the day, it's not the $60 million that they would have gotten from Bally Sports, but it's probably more than they would have gotten this year if Major League Baseball had produced the games. So it's a win for the team, especially if they do reinvest that into Major League payroll. I still think that it creates an opportunity for the Reds to not be done yet. And I think that's the key. That's the takeaway. That's where we want to be. They can still be active. Nick Krall can still pick up the phone and ask about certain players. They still have a lot of prospect capital that they can work with as far as trades go. And you know, there are a couple intriguing-ish free agents out there that they could go get. And, you know, we've talked about our guy, Randall. I can't say his last name. Grichuk. Is that right?
Yeah,
Grichuk,
right.
I got it. All right.
You got it right.
Randall,
look at that.
Randall Grichuk, that only took 3 weeks, but you know, he would be.
Now we can sign him. That was what
now.
Nick was breathing.
I know. Nick, I got it. And without a pronunciation guide, let's go get him. So there are some options out there. There are some things that the Reds could do. Now they have a little bit of money in their pocket. They got some walk around money, Jeff. Nick Krall can go for a stroll.
And I think it's important to note here that in this same article, Gordon notes that there were rumors that the Reds were linked to all-star closer for the Los Angeles Angels, Carlos Estevez, who is a free agent right now, and that there was apparently a conversation between the Reds and Estevez, but Gordon clarified that and said that there hasn't been any conversations for a few weeks now, and that the last conversation was the Reds and Estevez is not in their price range, that he's too expensive. So when you look at that, and I was trying to pull that up on Spot Track, and Spot Track's spinning, so I wasn't able to see it, but I think he was somewhere between $10 and $15 million average annual value. If that's too expensive, then you can kind of divulge where the Reds are money wise. And as much as the rumors around Anthony Santander and guys like him are that they are all considering shorter term deals, where Anthony Santander, as early as a month ago, was considering 5 years as his ideal option. Now they're saying shorter deals with lots of opt-outs, a la Nick Castellanos type contract. I still don't think that means that the Reds are in that price range, but I'm with you. Grichuk, maybe go trade for a Taylor Ward, some other deal like that to add a solid outfielder. He's not going to be a guy that we go crazy about and buy his jersey immediately, or like I've seen some people do this thing where they get on Fanatics and they purchase a custom jersey where they get the number of the guy and they put his last name on there before anybody. And they're like, hey, look, I got the first jersey of, whoever is a Red. Like, I don't understand why people do that, but hey, if that's you, that's you. But I'm saying, like, this is going to be something that makes the team better. I was worried, and I even said this on I did a video for TikTok. I do have a TikTok, at least for the next couple of days, while that app is still legal, that I mentioned I was worried that the Reds were done, that there was nothing else coming, that Gavin Lux was the last move they were going to make. And I didn't think that they had done enough to this point. This at least gives me hope that they will still make that move and make the biggest hole in their roster at least a little bit less of a hole.
Yeah, I don't think at this point it's a question of will they go get an outfielder. They're going to go get an outfielder, Jeff. Let's bold prediction time. Hot take. The Reds will add an outfielder.
I mean, how could they not do it by this point? They've done everything else. They can't go get more people that aren't outfielders.
The trick of it is, what level is that outfielder going to be?
Yeah.
It could be a spring training invite guy, which will really tick me off. It could be Anthony Santander. Anywhere in between. But they've got to there's not enough outfield depth in this system right now to go into spring training. They've got to go get some more bodies. So they're going to sign an outfielder. The question is, now maybe with this flexibility, can it be somebody that's impactful? And I think it could be. I don't think it's Santander. I'm going to cling to that hope until he signs with somebody else. But I do think it's realistic to have conversations about guys like Taylor Ward, guys they could go trade for that wouldn't cost all of the prospect capital, that would leave you some flexibility to make another move around the All-Star break if you had to. But I think that it's very realistic to start having those conversations a little bit more in depth, because this team really needs a guy like that. And they now have the means to go get them and pay them. So I'm interested to see what Nick Krall does next.
No, and I think that's the important thing too, is like, if the Reds were to get an Anthony Santander, I think they would have to trade Jeimer Candelario. That whole pipe dream of the thing where the A's or somebody around the A's thought that it would be a good idea to go get Jeimer Candelario. I don't think that's going to happen. But if that were to happen, that would signal that a Santander move was coming. For me, like that's going to be the issue here, is how does this roster move? It's moving a certain way after Gavin Lux. We're going to find out in spring training. But if that is the move, and then you have to move somebody else to the outfield like a Matt McClain, that's not as good as going and getting a Taylor Ward. I would rather have Taylor Ward on this team than asking Matt McClain to play center field.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Because as we'll talk about at points in times upcoming in this offseason, I have other plans for Matt McClain, and they don't involve the outfield. So for me, they still have to go get somebody.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's key here that the move to FanDuel Sports Network does open up a little bit of financial flexibility to add to the roster.
All right, Jeff. Well, we've talked about what this means for the payroll of it all. Coming up, we're going to talk about how you can watch the games, if that's better or if that's worse. We want to make sure you know how to get your Reds content, and we're going to talk about that coming up next.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keep every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. In fact, you can even look at some MLB futures over on FanDuel because the Reds have 5-1 odds to win the NL Central this year. And I'm pretty intrigued by that. Look, they're one outfielder away from making it very interesting in the division. And you know that Terry Francona is going to have them in that conversation all year long. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
We're talking Reds baseball here today, every day, every week, every month, all year long, whether it's off-season, spring training, regular season, or, Lord willing, the postseason. We've got you covered. If you're watching right now on YouTube and you haven't clicked subscribe, please click subscribe. And while you're down there, click that like button too. Let's get this show out to all of the Reds fans that we can. We love talking Reds baseball with you, and we want to talk Reds baseball with them as well. All right, Jeff. The Reds are moving to FanDuel. Not really. The Reds are staying with FanDuel. You know, a lot is just the same. There's not going to be much difference between the way you watch the Reds in 2024 and the way that you're going to watch the Reds in 2025, with one pretty significant difference, I think, for the in-market folks that don't have cable. And you're going to get to that in just a second. I just want to say we still haven't heard what this means about the broadcasting crew yet, but my assumption is that because everybody's still right where they were where we last saw them, that there's not going to be very many changes in that either. The pregame is still going to be the pregame, the postgame is still going to be the postgame, and for the on-air guys, I think that we're going to see the exact same thing we've been seeing. So I'm hopeful that we soon get an announcement that Welsh is back, that Sadak's back, that Barry Larkin's back, and that the pre and the post look the same.
I think that the crew is going to stay the same because I think they're like they're part of their employment is team based, not so much the broadcaster based or broadcast partner based. So there might not be too many changes there. I did see that the pre and the post will be 30 minutes period. And I believe Reds Live was a 60-minute show up till last year. So I think there's a little bit shorter there, but I don't necessarily know if it means a change in personnel. We'll see what that means there. The only difference for us as consumers is that we will be able to subscribe to the FanDuel Sportsbook app. And last year, for teams that did this, it was $20 a month, and you could watch the team through the app in market as well. I don't think blackouts apply to this. So if you are in an area where you were blacked out by MLB TV, you will be able to get the FanDuel Sportsbook app and watch through there. Now, I do believe that this will still black them out on MLB TV. So it won't be that nice little, you could subscribe to MLB.TV, watch the Reds, and then go to another game. It would still be two separate apps in this scenario now, but you would be able to do that without having to subscribe to cable, which in my book, it's a win. I'm going to save money by not subscribing to all the channels that I don't watch anyway, because I'm just going to be watching the Reds anyway. So I think that this for me is a win. I've heard some points to the counter that they don't love this, that they thought that going through Major League Baseball would have been slightly better. But at the same time, I think the big picture overall of adding some money to the budget and then being able to subscribe to an app and watch through streaming that way, I think it is a win for those of us that are consumers.
See, and I'm more in the camp of, I'm not sure I like this. I'm not sure I like how this whole thing played out. Baseball continues to just scratch and claw and cling as hard as it can to the regional model, right? To this model that lets the Los Angeles deferments make $1 billion in a TV deal, while the Cincinnati Reds are the guy with the fishing pole looking for $1. As long as they stay regionalized, that problem will persist. So my hope is that when they try and fix everything else with the next CBA, they fix that too. I had really hoped that this breakup of Bally Sports and this bankruptcy was going to maybe force them to move up that timeline a little bit and make things happen more quickly. And bless Rob Manfred's heart, he continues to find problems where they didn't exist, and he continues to never have found a solution that fixes a problem that he doesn't hate. So Rob Manfred continues to cling to allowing the deferment and the halves dominate this game. And I can't wait for both regionalized baseball and Rob Manfred to go away.
It's also key to know, too, that this is a 1-year deal. The reports were that this was literally just for 2025, and then 2026, the plan is to move to a Major League Baseball-led broadcast. I still find that kind of intriguing because it sounded as though their relationship with the sports broadcasting group that controls FanDuel Sportsbook or Sports Network or whatever now sounded like that relationship was over. And now we are back in this same spot. I think I do agree with you on the optics of this, because when you look at this and you combine it with the fact that the Oakland A's are now no longer the Oakland A's, they're just the A's, and they're going to play in Sacramento for a couple of years, waiting on their stadium in Las Vegas. And then you combine that with the fact that the Rays are now going to play in the spring training home of the New York Yankees at Steinbrenner Field because their stadium's all messed up and they don't have a quick answer to that. It just feels as though there are so many little Band-Aids over the distribution part of this game and the public persona of this game. It just feels as though Major League Baseball is pigeonholing itself into this corner where it will never be able to catch up to the NBA or the NFL.
Oh, and that's a pretty reasonable take, Jeff. I think what we'll see is this: 1-year deal, going to get a 1-year extension, and then when we get to the CBA,
club option for
club option for one, correct.
Yeah.
But then we'll get to the CBA, which is gonna involve a work stoppage, and they'll come out of that with some kind of national TV package that ends blackouts and does all of the things, because these owners, I think, for all the things we say about them, they're not dumb. And I think they know what's looming. And I think they know that when they come out of that, there's going to be some damage control to be done. There's going to be some repairs to be made. And one of the first things they're going to come out and do is a smiling Cheshire cat, Rob Manfred, going, well, I know it was a long year with no baseball, but guess what? We ended blackouts. That's the real story here. And it's going to be that kind of deal, Jeff. You watch. I know we're a couple years away from that, but let's just file that away for me to toot my own horn for being right about later, because I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, you make a good point, though. Like, I think that there is some foresight going on because of all of the deals, of all of the free agents that have been signed this offseason so far. There are exactly 5 that have deals that are longer than 3 years. Only 5 of them. And of course, one of them is Juan Soto, who signed a lifetime contract with the Mets. But for the most part, everyone is 3 years and below. Now, the 3 years would still mean that they are signed for 2027. But I think that that's just those teams that are like, yeah, I think we can come through whatever lockout or whatever strike or whatever they're going to do, and we can still pay this guy for 1 more year then, and maybe we even revisit his contract then. But for the most part, everybody is laying themselves out like, all right, we don't want any obligations past 2026. And even the Reds, if you look at their guaranteed contracts, I'm not talking about arbitration or anything like that, but their guaranteed contracts, there's 2, Jeimer Candelario and Hunter Green, past this year, not even past 2026. They have kept themselves out of any long-term obligations, which is why I always kind of thought the Candelario deal was still kind of strange, because they tied himself to them for so many years. But they've done this to set themselves up for what is ultimately going to be that fight for the CBA.
It's interesting, Jeff, because under that, they come out into a new CBA. Teams like the Dodgers, they're still going to have to honor all of this stuff they've done and the deferments and the millions and millions and millions of dollars that they have punted. They're still going to have to honor while also operating on a new collective bargaining agreement that probably includes salary floors and caps and all these other things. Whereas the Reds come into a new CBA with a clean slate, fresh start. Yep. So I do think that there is some chess being played right now. And I think, the owners are in the driver's seat. They know what's coming, and they're not going to, for the most part, spin big until the new system is in place. And with that, Jeff, that is enough of this crazy long money talk. Let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about meeting Tito, and let's talk about that coming up next.
Make sure to take us with you when you can't watch us on YouTube. We are literally on every podcast audio app out there. So subscribe today. All right, Steve, the Reds have finalized their plans for the Winter Caravan. And before we do jump into where Terry Francona is going to be, he's going to be at 3 stops on this Winter Caravan. I kind of felt like it was still another missed opportunity because the Reds didn't have Reds Fest. This could have been expanded. And I felt like, whatever the reasoning, there's probably some things that they can't contend with, like where guys are in the world. They might not be close to Cincinnati or close to the tri-state, but I felt like it was another missed opportunity where they didn't get Reds Fest off. Maybe they could have expanded the Winter Caravan. This is a week's worth of days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and they skip Tuesday. Then there's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But I kind of struggle with that a little bit, but we will lead off with this. You can meet Terry Francona if you're in Louisville on Friday, January 24th, or if you're in Lexington or Bowling Green on Saturday, January 25th. Terry Francona and Nick Krall will be at both of those stops. In fact, Jose Trevino will be with them there. So yeah, Kentucky folks, congratulations. Like, maybe I need to make a trip down there. My bourbon stash is getting a little bit low.
Well, that's good. And you need to get my bottle for when my pappy while you're down there. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, I like that the Reds are doing the Caravan. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I like that the Reds are doing the Caravan. I'm with you. Missed opportunities. The Reds continue to miss opportunities, I think, when it comes to hugging this fan base back that has stuck with it for so long. I think you're right. There was an opportunity here to maybe do larger scale caravan stops, right? You go to, let's say, a caravan stop in Dayton, and you have it at Wright State, at the Nutter Center. You have it at Hare Arena, wherever, one of those places that's big. You bring more people to the stops. You stay there longer. There were ways you could have done this. While it wouldn't have completely mirrored Reds Fest, it would have been an opportunity to get more people and have more players there and do more things. But that being said, I love that Terry Francona is just all in. I love that, he's doing multiple stops. I love that, he's really embracing the energy that I think surrounded him coming to this franchise. So I like seeing him out there. Kudos to Trevino for getting out there and meeting the fans. Here's a guy that's coming from New York, where I'm sure they didn't wander around the streets of New York very much as members of the Yankees. They were getting from point A to point B. So good on him for getting out there and meeting some of the people and, trying to embrace the fan base. I like that a lot. And, as we go through some more of these stops, I think that, the thing that for me is going to be missing is just really the opportunity to have all of the guys all in one place, like a Reds Fest, and be able to maximize my time and being able to meet people.
But our complainative thoughts out of the way, it does start this Saturday. I mentioned it starts in like a week or two. It doesn't. It starts this Saturday, January 18th in Dayton, up at the Air Force Museum. Tommy Thrall, Nick Krall, Stuart Fairchild, one half of Freychild will be up there. Sammy Stoffer is also going to be there. Alfredo Duno, minor league pitcher Nestor Laurent, and Mr. Red. You'll get to meet Mr. Red. But that's how it begins. It begins this Saturday. They're also going to Lima, I just
Lima.
said that wrong. Jose Lima, right?
Yeah.
Jose Lima is
Yeah.
going up there.
Jose Lima, town of Lima.
And it's going to be the same group, except hitting coach Chris Faleka will join that group there this Saturday. And then this Sunday in Indianapolis and in Lawrenceburg will be Brad Metter, Derek Johnson, Alexis Diaz is going to be on that stop, Jacob Hurtubise as well. And then those minor league players that I mentioned, they're going to be busy. They're traveling around a lot. Sammy Stafura, Nestor Laurent, and Alfredo Duno are meeting them. And Corky Miller, John Sadak, and Gapper go to Indianapolis and Lawrenceburg as well.
It's an interesting lineup.
I feel like they're definitely utilizing the broadcasters and the front office personnel.
I was just going to say, there's not a lot of big names on this caravan there, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think Alexis Diaz is the big. Andrew Abbott is going to be in Bloomington on January 23rd. Emilio Pagan is heading to Columbus on that day as well. Santiago Espinal is hitting a couple of stops. I found it interesting that Jose Trevino is making the rounds. Like, dude just got here, kind of like you mentioned. But yeah, nobody else. Like, no Spencer Steer, no Ellie De La Cruz, no Matt McClain, no CES, no Noelvi Marte, no TJ Friedel. I thought TJ Friedel would be a good one there, but that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer about it, because the Winter Caravan's a lot of fun getting to meet players and meet coaches and stuff, but it just feels like another step where it's like, probably could have taken one more step and made this a little bit bigger, having little regional Reds Fest days or something like that, or adding a stop or two. I don't know what the logistics are behind that. This is just me a little bit speculative here, but it seems as though they had another opportunity to reach out and they didn't.
But listen, we want to know what your experience with Reds Fest or with the Reds Caravan is this coming year. If you go to a stop, post those pictures on social media, tag Jeff and I, tag the show. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know how the event was for you. We want to hear about it. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to see your pictures. Make sure you post those. We're looking forward to it. And with that, Jeff, I think that is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks so much for making Locked On Reds your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go check out our guy Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan, over on the Locked On MLB podcast. Has you covered from a national perspective. Lots of funny stories, lots of baseball history this guy knows. You're definitely going to want to give him a listen. We've made it easy for you. The link to his show is down in the description of ours. Until next time, we will continue to gather up all of the news, the information, the rumors, and we will bring it all right back here to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
You think people from Lima get mad if you call it Jose Lima?
You're in trouble, man. You're in trouble.
The sky is blue.